I used to overthink nearly every single interaction that I had. Anytime there was ever a situation in a group, in public, while I'm hanging out with people, and there was a situation that was slightly awkward, it wouldn't just bother me in that moment. I would constantly overthink it. I would take it home with me. I would think about it for days, weeks, months, and even years, to be honest. Sometimes an awkward situation from years ago would hit me while I was trying to fall asleep, and I'm reliving that moment. And I think a lot of you guys can relate to that. I think that's part of the human experience in some ways, dealing with an awkward social situation, and you can't stop thinking of it. It can't escape your brain no matter how hard you try. When I was around 15, I worked at a local ice cream shop, and anytime I had an interaction that was slightly awkward or something would go wrong, maybe they had a slight complaint, maybe I did something wrong, and maybe the manager was mad at me, coworkers, whatever the situation was, it wouldn't just bother me in that moment. And instead of logically trying to solve it in whatever way I could, I instead got emotional about it, and it made me anxious and it made me stressed. And I remember going home and thinking about it, just like how I explained. To a lot of people, this is normal and this is a part of daily life. I'm not gonna say that I 100% fixed every single interaction that left me slightly awkward, maybe made my heart beat a little faster, made me nervous, etc. What I'm gonna say is I significantly increased my ability to stay calm in awkward situations and deal with them properly. And I used a few methods that I think would benefit you guys, and they might not seem entirely obvious at first. Making a solid effort to remove social anxiety from your life is so beneficial and will improve your quality of life and your enjoyment so much better. Because for me, I'm an extrovert, 100%. I get my energy from spending time with people. And when I'm worried about, not being cringy or not being this way or, trying to be someone else, and I'm thinking about that, I'm hanging out with people. This is something I used to do, is I would hang out with people, and the way I felt after that hangout, I would think about how I acted and whether or not I was cringy, whether or not I was making people laugh, whether or not, all these things. And I see this coming back in a lot of ways because a lot of people are so focused on their aura or so focused on, these things that generally, they are important. It's important to be charismatic. It's important to be funny. It's important to have social skills. But bringing your emotions into it in this way, it turns hanging out with people and socializing from this really healthy, fun, productive thing to do that's so important for your quality of life. It turns it into a chore and something that makes you anxious and something that you're stressed about. This video, I hope, will help you focus less on that and give you some confidence so that when you go socialize with people, you can focus on enjoying it and having a good time versus acting in a certain way that makes you appear cooler. So much of life is interacting with people. If you want to have a job, if you go to school, if you do anything besides stay home and goon all day, you will be interacting with people. Social anxiety is a limit in your brain that makes life significantly worse, from my experience. My first point is personally one of the biggest ways that I improved my confidence and improved my social skills. It is to work somewhere that demands social interaction. This can be a customer service job, sales job, retail job, pretty much any job that forces you to talk to strangers, help them, and do things like that. Especially when you're working at, like a food service job where you need to be greeting people, making small talk with them if possible. Maybe you need to upsell them and make offers. This really improved my life, especially because I did it at a pretty young age. I started working. A lot of people start working before they're 16, like I did, but I started working, I think I was 14 or 15. I think I was 15, and I was working at that ice cream shop. And I remember starting out, I was so socially anxious. It made me so nervous, even just when you make an order and you have to call it out, what the order is, you have to be loud, you have to make sure that people get it. And when you're taking orders and people ask you for recommendation, things like that, if you're socially anxious, it can really stress you out and it can really make working difficult. And then eventually through practice, you take some time every day to, you start the shift and you have to warm up a little bit. And then eventually it starts being fun and it starts being something that you get good at. You can talk to people, make them laugh, you're smiling at them, and it really becomes a beneficial skill, and it really lowers your social anxiety. Working somewhere that demands social interaction, especially like a food service job or just anywhere that gets really busy, it also lowers your general anxiety, I've found, and just makes it a lot more difficult for you to get stressed because, you're dealing with these rushes a lot. And through practice, you get to be more experienced in dealing with those rushes and getting stressed out and learning to regulate yourself and learning to stay calm and focus on the task. And you learn how to deal with it and how to deal with your own stress. And this is extremely beneficial just in life in general. Nowadays, I still work customer service, and I'm noticing that even when there's a rush, and the place that I work now is even busier than the last few jobs I worked. When there's a rush, when there's people complaining, I don't really get stressed. Maybe I'll take a look at the line and be like, oh my God. But now I don't really feel like, it's making my heart beat fast. It's making it really hard to work. It's completely exhausting me. I know now, to focus on one thing at a time. If somebody has a complaint, I do my best to help them, and that's really all that matters. The main point, no matter what job you do, the main principle is to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because no matter what, if you have a problem in your life, the biggest way to remove that problem is by putting yourself in a situation where you have to face it and getting practice. I encourage you guys to work somewhere that demands social interaction, or even if you don't want to do that, maybe you're on the entrepreneur route, or maybe you're in college and you don't want to work, maybe you never had a job before, maybe just go outside and talk to people. Just force yourself into these social interactions so that through practice you can get better at talking to people. And this is going to come with time because life demands social interaction in general, but if you want to speed up the process, instead of just sticking to yourself, put yourself in these uncomfortable situations. Point number 2. Another major thing that I did to remove social anxiety from my life is I worked on myself. I built myself up to become more confident so that really I knew within that I was okay and that I had that personal validation from myself. I didn't really care what they thought, to be honest. And it's a lot easier to talk to somebody and not be awkward when you really could not care less what they think of you. Once you build yourself up, you go to the gym, you improve your physique, you get a good haircut, you start reading books, you start working on what you believe your purpose is, you study more. Whatever self-improvement and building yourself up means to you, it will improve your confidence and it will drastically improve your ability to handle people. And when you have that feeling in the back of your mind, you're going to be happier, you're going to crack more jokes, you're going to be nicer to people, you're going to be more confident and more present. Point 3, and the last major way that I improved my social skills and removed social anxiety from my life is while I was interacting with people, I stopped focusing on myself so much. I stopped focusing on how comfortable I felt, how I was acting, what I was doing as it respects to how the other person is perceiving me, and I started focusing on making the other person feel comfortable, making them feel special, making them feel like I was interested in what they had to say. This can be done by focusing on asking important questions instead of just talking about yourself and making yourself seem more interesting. This can be done by, being calm, not being aggressive, complimenting people, taking an interest, a genuine interest in what they're interested in and what they're doing with their life. This can really improve your interactions with people, and generally, people won't care if you're not talking about yourself, and in fact, they won't actually notice because people love talking about themselves so much that if you focus on what they're interested in and you just listen, they won't even really notice that you're not talking about themselves because they'll be so locked in on explaining this thing that matters to them in their life that they've been focusing on all day or all week or whatever, that they won't even care that you're not saying anything. And that makes it a lot easier for you because you don't have to come up with these things to say. And when you're really locked in on what the other person is saying and you're focused on it, what they're saying is fuel for these follow-up questions that continue the conversation and make it easier. And the easiest way to do this is you actually have to be genuinely interested. You know, maybe they're talking about computers and you're interested in that. And you're maybe thinking about building a computer yourself. And then they're talking about computers and they're talking about, like, you know, this motherboard is good versus this motherboard. And then you're like, yeah, that's really interesting. What about the graphics card? That's important too, right? And then you can ask about that and then they'll go off on that. And this can apply to really any topic that they're talking about. And just taking a genuine interest in what people are saying is extremely important to making the conversation feel easier, because you don't have to say anything. People love talking about their interests. People love talking about themselves. And another benefit besides not having to say anything really, is you get to learn a lot more from listening to other people talk versus, you know, just talking about yourself and what you already know. So to summarize what I went over in this video, the 3 main ways to kill your social anxiety that I've found that have really helped me are putting yourself in these uncomfortable social situations, building yourself up to be more confident so that you care less what people think of you, and focusing on listening to other people and making them feel comfortable versus focusing on how you feel and how you're acting. Another thing you should remember is so many people, literally everybody, 99% of people have social anxiety and struggle with talking to people and struggle with awkward situations, especially young people that just don't have as much life experience yet. These people that you look up to, they're not just like these perfect people that don't have awkward situations, you know? They order a coffee and accidentally grab the wrong one, and, you know, they deal with a stressful interaction and they get uncomfortable, and then they try to go to sleep and they think about it too. Like, it's not just you. So it's 100% okay if you struggle with social anxiety. And the thing is, you're never really going to 100% remove it from your life. But if you make an effort, a conscious effort, which you're doing by watching this video, you will drastically improve how you handle these situations. And you will see an improvement to your quality of life, how happy you are, and you will also feel more confident about yourself. And the more confident you are, the better your interactions will be, and it'll just keep stacking and compounding. So I appreciate you guys for watching this video, and goodbye.